in her reports.
The question is that the motion be agreed to.
Mr Speaker.
I call the honourable member Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I rise on behalf of the Labour Party to heartily support the motion of the Government to reappoint Jan Wright as the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment. Dr Wright was appointed by the previous Labour Government in 2007, and we believe that she has done an excellent job as the Parliamentary Commissioner, and we are pleased that the National-led Government has decided to reappoint her. As was noted by Mr Brownlee, Dr Wright comes from a multidisciplinary background, and I think that is actually one of the great strengths that she brings to the office, a background in physics, in energy and resources, and indeed in public policy with a qualification in that from Harvard University. She has drawn together those elements of her scientific knowledge with her knowledge of public policy, the way that our government operates, to be a highly effective officer of this Parliament. And I think all members of this Parliament should be grateful for the level of work, the integrity and the focus that Jan Wright has brought to her position as the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment. I think it's actually very good to hear Jerry Brownlee say that he has disagreed from time to time with the Commissioner, because that is indeed the point. The Commissioner is an officer of this House, and Trevor Mallard has disagreed with her, and indeed I'm sure members around the House will find that they have from time to time, and may well in the future, but that is exactly the point, that as an officer of Parliament she is independent. She holds that independence dearly, I know, and therefore the words from the Minister, I'm sure she will understand exactly what they mean, that she is a person who upholds that independence very, very well. Mr Speaker, the other thing I would like to note about the approach that Jan Wright is taking to her role as Parliamentary Commissioner is the proactive nature of her work. The fact that she has been prepared to go out and take on issues that are, as Mr Brownlee calls them, contemporary, and be prepared to investigate them and make reports with quite specific recommendations. In fact, the Parliamentary Commissioner's website offers the opportunity for New Zealanders to suggest topics for investigations to her. I think that's an excellent process, one that other officers of Parliament do in different ways, but I think that is a very open process. It's one that it gives some assurance to members of the public that this is somebody who is working on their behalf and is doing work that is not necessarily that which the government asks for. Most recently, on this side of the House, we are very, very pleased that the Parliamentary Commission for the Environment has taken on a suggestion made by the Labour Party and by others that there should be an inquiry into fracking. It is an important process for her to undertake. The Labour Party in our manifesto said that we should have an inquiry into fracking because it's an issue where there is now a lot of contested information. It's a process that's been going on in New Zealand for many years, and it is important that as more information about that, the process of fracking becomes into the public arena, that it is timely for the Parliamentary Commissioner to look at that issue and to make sure that New Zealand has a system that is robust enough to undertake that technology or to use that kind of technology within New Zealand, but also to look at the evidence from overseas. So on this side of the House, we're extremely pleased that that will happen and that inquiry will come through. And we do urge the government to listen to the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment when it does come to her inquiry on fracking. She is a person who always looks at the evidence, at the scientific basis for her decisions, and we are looking forward to that report and to the recommendations that come from that, and to the government adopting those recommendations. Mr Speaker, the other element of Ms. Wright, Dr Wright's tenure that I want to mention is her independence. And in particular, in recent times, I've seen that through her excellent submission on the Exclusive Economic Zone Bill that is currently before the Environment and Local Government Select Committee. Her submission was one that was critical of elements of that government bill. In particular, the fact that that bill does not meet our international obligations when it comes to these matters. It fails to reach the standards that are set by the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. She also made recommendations around changing the purpose of that bill to reflect more closely the principles of the Resource Management Act, i.e. the principles of sustainable management, rather than the bill introduced by the government, which which actually talked about the balance between interests rather than having the presumption of sustainable management. On this side of the House, Mr Speaker, we're very proud of the fact that the Labour Party was the only party to oppose the first reading of the EEZ bill, and we will await with interest the positions of other parties when that bill emerges from the committee. But we have certainly seen Jan Wright's submission on that bill as one of the most important of the submissions that the committee received, and it was, as ever, evidence-based and certainly gave the government some strong indications of how that bill could be improved. Once again, we would hope that the government would look at those recommendations and indeed others that have come through in the process and ensure that we have EEZ legislation that is robust, that does not weaken what happens already inside New Zealand's territorial waters, and makes sure that we fulfil our international obligations. Mr Speaker, the other reports that the Commissioner currently has underway, as the Minister notes, are important areas: climate change, electricity, biodiversity. We are interested in making sure that those reports also find their way to the House in a timely manner. The Parliamentary Commissioner has taken some innovative ways in getting her information out to the community, and I'm sure she will continue to do that. We see towards the end of the month her report around wild rivers, which will be extremely interesting in the context of future care of our waterways and also energy generation. Mr Speaker, I want to reflect on one of the matters that Dr Wright has raised several times in her tenure, and that is the desirability for better information about our environment, and in particular her desire that there be some better environmental reporting mechanism. I have a bill in the private members' ballot for an environment reporting bill. It's an environment reporting bill that would require the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment to report every 5 years on the state of the New Zealand environment. It also requires the establishment of a standard set of indicators to assess the state of our environment. Mr Speaker, at the moment we have very patchy data in New Zealand and patchy information about the overall quality of our environment, and the Parliamentary Commissioner has raised her concerns about this several times. I am aware that various government agencies have been doing work on this issue, but the time has come for this kind of environment reporting. That's why I've placed that bill in the ballot. I hope that it is drawn from the ballot, but I actually hope more than that that the government adopts a similar bill and actually puts it through the House so that we can have good quality data on our environment. It's simply impossible for policymakers and indeed for anyone interested in the environment to fully be able to adopt policy, to develop policy, if there isn't good information and data available. And the Parliamentary Commissioner, as an independent person in our system, is exactly the right person to compile that report. The Ministry for the Environment does do good work in this area, but they are not an independent agency of government as the Parliamentary Commissioner is. So that's why it's appropriate that she is the person who does the environment reporting, that there is a standardised set of indicators and we fill in the gaps in the data that we already have. So, Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Labour Party, I am more than happy to endorse the recommendation of the government to reappoint Dr Jan Wright as the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment. We believe that she has done an excellent job in her tenure. I am sure she will continue to do that and continue to uphold her independence as an officer of this House.